Something I've really wrestled with is, how do I know if it's my twin flame? And the honest answer is you don't. You don't know. For those of us who have not come into union, I don't know what it's like to be in union and to have the other individual completely accept this concept and consciously work with you to evolve your joined soul and to purposefully enhance your healing ability and your vibration and to work in anchoring the fifth dimension here in our 3D reality. And obviously that's something we should all hope that we can do one day, but for a lot of us that's just not the reality. And I'd like to refer people to Jill and Remy. They are a couple who have the website Twin Flame Healers, and they are definitely two twin flames who are working together and who both acknowledge what this is and work to help other people. But for myself, what I've really struggled with is really trying to figure out who my twin flame is, or looking for proof that it is who other people say it is. So just to do a little recount, I was told a person would come into my life, met that person, and then for years after our separation began, I went to see psychics frequently, trying to understand the intensity of the feelings I felt, even though this person was avoiding me, rejecting me. And at the time, there was never any use of the language twin flames, but there was, I've since listened to various recordings of these sessions, as they were all taped. This is back in the day when people still tape things. And, each psychic would acknowledge, oh, there's a deep connection here, or there's past life history here, and they would tune into, yes, he's thinking about you, but you scared him, that kind of thing. And but no one ever had the label of twin flame back then, and I just couldn't understand, and I thought it was to do with my neediness, that I had externally attached to another person, and until I was able to free myself of that attachment, I was never completely whole unto myself. And so began my mission to detach, and it never worked. So of course, it drove me nuts, and at different points, if I had the ability, I would reach out to him and either apologize for my ongoing quote-unquote obsession. I have condemned myself as like the obsessed girl, the crazy girl, the stalker girl. Like right in the early stages, I would drive by his home. The feeling was just so intense, and I had no idea what was going on, and it would just take hold of me, and I didn't know what I was dealing with. So, but, I blamed it all on myself. I didn't truly understand that this was something otherworldly, because I thought in order for it to be that, the other person would have to acknowledge it, and I just kept hitting a brick wall. So blamed it all on me, fully took it onto myself, that this was my issue. And so I've mentioned my false twin and how that relationship almost provided some respite from this feeling. But when things would deteriorate with my false twin, feelings for this original person would bubble up, and that drove me nuts, because when I was with my false twin, I thought that was the person I was meant to be with, and I couldn't understand why I kept kind of, what's the word, kind of bouncing back and forth between the two. And then things would pick up with my false twin again, and that original guy, feelings for him would kind of disappear into the background. But then ultimately, when the false twin and I split, what was I left with but these feelings, this connection again, and nothing to mask it, because at that point I'd also decided I'm not entering another relationship, because there were different things about my psyche and my own issues that allowed me to be in a relationship with someone whereby, being talked down to, being verbally abused, mentally, emotionally abused, even some hints of physical abuse, not to mention me putting my life on hold, trying to, put all my energy into this person's life. So my own dreams didn't get realized, always trying to help him manifest his dreams. And when it was all said and done, I'm like, what have I been doing? Where have I been? What have I done for myself? And I, in that moment, vowed, I'm not hooking up with anyone else again until I figured this out. I don't trust myself not to pull in this type of relationship again. So, the walls went up, and I thought, that's it. I'm an island, and and also too, when that relationship ended, there was no longer this day-to-day negativity and someone sucking your energy, and just my happiness and self-confidence started to creep back, and I didn't want to give that up for anyone. So I've been 5 years single since then. And during this time, though, this connection, like I said, reappeared. And during this time, I reached out and we reconnected. And I still didn't get it. I still, at one point, even apologized. I said, I don't know what's going on, why I still feel this way. And he would always offer these words of encouragement, like, you'll find someone who will sweep you off your feet. And, that never happened, and I just thought, what is this? I've written songs about it. I wrote him, we had this one kind of synchronistic event where I was sleeping one evening and dreaming, and woke up in the middle of the night, and, he obviously, I'd been dreaming about him. He was at the forefront of my thoughts, and being a writer, I picked up a pen and piece of paper. I couldn't get back to sleep, and this poem just poured out of me, complete unto itself. Didn't have to, sweat over it. And it was all about the depth of my feelings for him, how he had helped me, how I recognized he was unavailable, but I was content on my own, and I would continue to be content on my own because I'd found, quote unquote, my home. And anyway, I went back to bed, and in the morning there was a Facebook message from him. And I was really angry and kind of blasted him via Messenger. And just, at the frustration of, what the hell is this? And I can't be in this on my own, because, he's the one who contacted me after I wrote this. And then I felt really good about kind of, freaking on him, because it was a good outlet. But then this huge remorse hit me, and he'd always been very kind of encouraging and trying to instill positive energy on me, and I kind of went back and apologized and explained I'd been under a lot of stress, and I sent him the poem saying, this isn't obviously anything I would perform or publish, so obviously it's intended for you, and didn't hear back, but just yet another example. And then last spring I came across this article, because I was, Googling unrequited love and kind of relationships with other souls who don't acknowledge you, that kind of stuff. And this article came up whereby this woman wrote about how you can have a contract with another soul where one person feels this endless pull and the other person doesn't acknowledge it. And the point of this contract is this person has been selected by you on the soul level to be your teacher, because your mission is to become full without ever realizing a relationship with them, getting to the point where, you are completely whole unto yourself, that you no longer feel that connection. And if this person was to cave and actually connect with you, then that would throw you off your path, and you would never realize, what the point of it was. And, I thought, wow, maybe this is what's going on. So on a whim, I sent it to him, and he, within seconds, he emailed back and said, this pretty much sums it up. And I was like, he'd never responded that quickly since we'd reconnected, and I just almost fell over. And then we proceeded to have this lengthy Facebook Messenger conversation that was, again, just what it used to be like, this beautiful language and exchange of wonderful ideas and this euphoric energy. And I just felt like a child, just filled with delight and laughing. And I was at work and I had to get back to what I was doing. And I had hoped that it would continue, and it didn't. And later that summer, I had sent him a message saying, I'm thinking of you. It feels really strong. And I'd also, during that conversation, was just like, wow, this is the closest evidence I've ever had of proof of souls existing. And it was really exciting to me. And I wanted to explore it further, but he had ended the conversation and wasn't returning to it. So later that summer, I had made the decision to go vegan. I cannot handle the way our society treats animals, factory farming, the inherent cruelty to it. And I had been strongly thinking of him, and he kind of wrote back, and I mentioned, I'm thinking of you, and this is where I'm at, and I just went vegan. And he wrote back saying, I've been considering that. And I said, well, here's some videos, and if anyone's interested, Gary Smith, he's the big vegan activist out of the States. His video, the best video I ever saw, and it's really intense about how we need to free animals from their slavery, basically. And so I'd sent that to him and a couple other things, and he came back and said, wow, that makes my decision up for me. I'm going vegan. And I felt so joyous because, here all these years he had kind of given me help, and here I was able to help him back. And I said, no, I owe you. I'm so happy to help. And then, and then that was it, very quick. And then I guess a few months, and that was in the middle of the summer last year. And I was talking to a friend, and I had kind of confided to her in her about this connection. And she said, well, why don't you go to this psychic or a medium that I know? And so I made an appointment, and it wasn't until October that I got in. And I went there determined to find out about my career, and I was going to ask about this, but it wasn't supposed to be the main focus of it, because I'm always trying to get away from focusing on this. And it was a really intense reading. I had requested a psychic reading, and she flipped into mediumship and channeled my two grandmothers who had passed. And then I said, well, what about this connection? And she said, the reason you feel the way you do is because that's your twin soul, or your twin flame. And I went, what? And she said, yeah, but, he's really involved in a soul, really with a soulmate. And so, for you guys to come together, this is a late in life event. And, oh yeah, you'll be connecting with a soulmate next fall. And I think having a biological baby with that soulmate. And I was just like, whoa, what? And, the way she had actually channeled my grandmothers and had provided proof of their personalities and identity, I was just beside myself. And she'd also said, she touched on some other issues, or topics like, you'll be getting this work contract, and your father's going to hurt his knee. And anyway, I left there going, wow. And it really affected me. And so a couple weeks after, I just couldn't get the thought out of my head. And what did I do? I sent a Facebook message to him saying, and I was kind of freaking because I'm like, I don't want to have a baby with someone. I don't want another soulmate relationship. What? And so I sent him a message, and I said, I went to this psychic, and this is what she said, and basically spelled it all out. And in the end, I'm like, I don't know if I believe this. I'd like to hear your thoughts. And so long story short, I have never heard from him again. And like I've mentioned in other videos, he's married for the second time, and I think his second marriage is about at the 10-year mark, and he has stepchildren. So since this kind of, epiphany, I didn't get the work contract. My dad didn't hurt his knee, and I thought, well, maybe she's, full crap. And now I've gone ahead and wrecked the communication line that I had with this person. So I went online and started researching twin flames and discovered, all the YouTube channels and the advisors and the healers, and I couldn't believe it because, I'd been living with this for 17 years at that point and never knew that I was part of something that was a lot bigger. So that was really empowering and made me realize, I'm not just a victim to this, there's something to this. Although all the while still doubting it because, how could this be? This person is not confirming anything apart from the one concession he made on us having a soul connection. And I'm in this completely on my own. And if I talk about this with most people, they're going to call me crazy. And I'm sick of being called crazy because I've been, labeling myself as crazy for so many years now. But then I got drawn to another twin flame advisor, and she confirmed that this person was my twin flame. She also talked about my false flame. And she also confirmed that he was, my twin flame was doing very important soul work with his soulmate, and that basically I wasn't going to get any answers out of her. There was no time frame, there was no nothing, and I'd only paid for a half-hour session, and I came away feeling really even more frustrated. But then she kind of pointed me in the direction of, you need to focus on yourself, and that's obviously what I was getting out of all the research I was doing. But one thing had happened after the first psychic where I had this really intense dream. And in the dream, my twin flame was there with his soulmate. And we were sitting around a table, and she was amazingly powerful and super charismatic. And I'm a writer, and on the table was a book. And she didn't want to acknowledge the book. And I felt like, okay, well, she's the powerful one. And then, but there was a symbol on the front of the book, like, I can't remember what it was. I later went back to the psychic and said, here's the symbol. And she said, oh, that's symbolic of the twin flame connection. And anyway, all of a sudden, it's like this symbol became 3D and pulled me and my twin flame into another world. And so we were in this hallway, kind of quickly running down this hallway, and all these magical creatures were jumping out, and we both could see them. And it's like we were seeing with the same eyes. And then we ended up in this room in a bottom bunk bed, and he asked me to hold him like a mother would. So there was, I wanted to obviously pull him towards me and feel like that romantic. And he requested just, caring, nurturing. And so I did that. And I remember saying, feeling really worried, like your soulmate's going to come around any second. And he was kind of assuring me, it's okay. And then anyway, woke up. And so I went back to the psychic and said, I had this crazy dream. And she said, well, that's, his soulmate didn't want to acknowledge your book and that symbol because she doesn't share the same connection with him that you do. And so anyway, since I've had a lot of dreams, and I've always had dreams about meeting him in the astral sphere or in dream space, and I've since had more dreams but what happened is, like, after this dream, in the dream space, there became, like, he had always had me at quite a distance in dreams in years before. I'd see him, and he would always be with a big group of people, and I would just have to kind of watch him with this group, like I was an outsider observing from the outside. And there was ever hardly any kind of intimate interaction in our dreams. It was just, we would be passing by. Whereas from this point on, the dreams became much more like it would be more direct between us, and we would face each other. And as a matter of fact, in the last 2 months, those dreams have completely died off. So I saw in one video that there might be a reason to that. But anyway, so in the spring, I was working with an energy healer, and I said to her, I have this connection with this person, and I've been told it's my twin flame. And she was adamant, it's not your twin flame. Absolutely not. You deserve to be with someone who, wants to be with you, and you have to let this energy go. And I was like, you're right. You're totally right. Why am I still pining? Like, this has been a theme in my life of wanting to be with men who didn't want to be with me, which probably ties into, the energetics around my upbringing and whatnot. But she goes on to say, oh, well, I feel a connection. And she sensed an energetic connection coming out of the middle of my back. And I had read that twin flames are connected by a cord or a pipe at the heart chakra. And it's like, oh, well, there you go. You're picking up on the connection. And then she also, when I would go back to see her, she'd be like, so how are things with that guy? Like, it was always a point of focus for her. And I'm just like, what? So he's not my twin flame, but we're connected at the heart chakra, and you always want to know what's going on. Interesting. And the other thing she picked up, she said, wow, you really love him. And I kind of threw my hands up, like, I don't even know the guy, but I do. The love grows deeper with every passing year. And so she couldn't really help me. And then I lined up another twin flame advisor, someone who specialized it remotely. And that was back in June. And right away, she came to the phone. She knew his name. She knew where he lived. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's definitely your twin. And, she gave me a bit more information. But her whole thing was, oh, you guys are totally going to get in contact in the next 3 months. I can feel it. And I just didn't feel like I felt there was, when you have these readings, you always have to take into account the person's ego and how they're, also responding to your ego. So the information, you have to just go with what resonates with you. But anyway, yet again, I'm having another person confirm it's my twin flame. And so ever since I kind of hit him with this information, he's never gotten back to me. I've since sent him, a few notes here and there, trying to be really lighthearted and more, and not mentioning it again. Or I think in one I mentioned it and said, you know what, I don't know about this, but I do feel I have an energetic counterpart and they'll come into my life when the timing's right. Trying to kind of backpedal a little bit, like, I'm really sorry I hit you with this. I know you're married. I'm not focusing on it, and here's, me back on my journey. And the last, I think, anyway, and so I've since had yet another reading with another twin flame advisor. This was about a month ago, and again, she confirmed. So, do I know this is my twin flame? I don't know that. Like, I don't know it. He's not here. He's not sitting there going, you know what, I really feel that I'm your twin flame. So it's something that is being told to me. And, I've even wished that, like, I truly have wished, I hope this isn't, because it's not going anywhere with him. He feels like he's in his marriage for the long haul, and I have to respect that. He's married. If I was married, and I've been in a relationship where, my partner was not fully there, and it was horrible. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So, and I believe in marriage and in commitment and lifelong commitment, and especially if there are children involved. And so, how I've wished this person is not. And then I think, well, what else could he be? And then I think, well, maybe this is a guru who is showing me what the twin flame connection is about. And I will encounter my twin flame. I've looked at, maybe my dog is my twin flame. I love my dog. Maybe, my twin flame is not incarnated. And so I embody, and so I try and communicate. I communicate with this twin flame that I feel. And the thing is, when I ask my higher self and I ask my spirit guides and everything that I've begun to do in terms of communicating with, the angelic realms and the realm of kind of divine love and higher information, the answer always comes back that, yes, I have to trust my heart and trust the process, and that this person is my divine counterpart, and that the challenge is, it goes back to that link I sent him, where if we were to come together, I maybe wouldn't, my focus would be on the romantic relationship and not the soul growth that I'm being asked to do. And, I can get really bitter. I look at everybody I know, they're in partnerships, whether they're, I believe I have one friend who's in a twin flame relationship. Other friends are in soulmate relationships, but there is that comfort and happiness and sense of community that comes along with being in a relationship. And I miss that. And, but I'm also really, pulled along on this spiritual path, and so what I've begun to do is, rather than focusing on the person, this person who lives elsewhere and is in another relationship and doesn't talk to me, and I tune into these calls where, you can do this energy clearing and accelerate your union. And I do think there's been some progress in that. There's been blocks between us that have maybe dissolved. I had this one experience after a reading where, like, I did a healing call and did this kind of, I think it was like inner child healing with your twin flame, all the creative visualization that goes along with it. And I had this crazy scene play out where we were both in a courtroom, and he was on the kind of plaintiff side, prosecuting side, and I was the defense, and there was a judge, and the judge was kind of divine source, and my twin was really aggressive, not aggressive, but just adamant, she's crazy and I've been wronged, and I was like super anxious and trying to look at him, and he wouldn't look at me. And then all of a sudden, it's like the entire jury were my angels, and they lifted me, and I began to float up into the air of the courtroom and was suspended above him. And he suddenly, and then the judge was divine source, and it all transformed. And he, in my, vision, it's like he transformed on the inside and realized I'm not to blame for this. Like, he can't condemn me for my actions because there's something here that he hasn't been seeing. And then it was like I then transformed into this bridal dress, and he was in a tux, and the last scene of the vision was us coming together in an embrace and him accepting me. And so the last healer I worked with, I told her this, and she's like, wow, that's amazing. You're dissolving, judgments that he's had against you. And I continue to do that energy work. Like, I've really tried to work on dissolving kind of the crazy label that he still might hold around me because of all of the things I did when I was so much younger. And just the, my ongoing attempts to contact him. And it's really hard trying to talk with someone who you share this profound connection with, who, in the 3D, when you hardly know them. So I've had these strange emails I've sent him, and what I've learned this summer is that I can't talk to him over Facebook anymore. It's so superficial. What happened after my last healing was that there's no longer a 3D context in which to speak to him. I'm someone from his ancient past. He has a full life, and for me to contact him in the 3D, it doesn't make any sense because there's no context. It's not like, hey, let's go for coffee, or, I'm this woman outside his marriage saying, I think we're twin flames, and though he's very spiritual and open, and even if he was to accept this, he's being very honorable in, regardless whether he thinks I'm crazy or not, in just respecting his wife's confidence in him and trust. And, that's really beautiful. If he was talking to me about this, how would I trust him? It's just that whole thing. Do you hook up with a guy who leaves someone to be with you? Because then, it's a no-brainer. They're going to do the same to you. So I guess at the end of the day, what I've learned is that I can't focus on who my twin flame is represented in an ego, in a personality, in a 3D person. What I need to do is draw my attention to the connection. And so what I do is, when I feel this I sit with the connection, and I don't focus on, when is this person going to contact me? And if I heal this, am I going to hear from him, and wait till he get a message, or wonder what's happening in his marriage? Like, obviously, sometimes it's really hard to control those thoughts, but I really try and pull away from that, because that way of thinking is not helping me. It's not helping him. It's discourteous to his soulmate, and it's not the higher path to take. The higher path is for me to go inwards. And so this is my current path with my elusive twin flame, is to communicate to them on the inside and not have them to just focus on the energy of the connection. And so, and that's, that is mine. That's my space. That's my inner place where I can go and I can pull positive energy from it. Or if I'm feeling that that energy is weak and discouraged or negative, then I've come to think of that as my connection. I need to empower it by pouring energy into it, and there's an energy exchange happening. So I don't know if the person who others say is my twin flame, who comes to me in my dreams, I don't know if that's affecting him or not, but I do know that I have an energy connection, an energetic connection, and that I can, as a healer, you work with that connection, and that's the work I'm doing now. And so I guess the point of this video is, I don't spend money, on people to find out, what's going to happen next. And because, half the time, yeah, they'll get some things right to give you that. And, kudos to them, right? They are open, they can read stuff, but then they're going to get stuff wrong. And you are fully in control of your reality. Nothing is set in stone. We're consciously co-manifesting our lives in every second, and it's completely dynamic and ever-changing. And one thing that they might read, and if you take that to heart, you could end up manifesting that, even though you have the power to make whatever it is you want to have happen. So my advice is to stop paying for people to tell you what's happening, and to go inwards and to really focus on your connection on the inside. And there's one advisor right now who does these. She offers a lot of her services free. It's 10 of Cups Ministries with Sonia Evans. So I highly recommend following her. But I find, even sometimes she focuses on the union and coming into divine union. And she is with her twin flame, according to her. So again, this is for those people who aren't in union and who are continually dealing with the elusive flame. And this is my advice for you. Focus on the energetic connection within you and grow that. Meditate, go inside, ask your spirit team for guidance, go inwards. And Cassidy Kane with, I think it's Twin Flames 1111, also focuses a lot on this. But I think at the end of the day, rather than but they still advise, go inwards, but for the purpose of accelerating your union. And I just feel the stress on the union is wrong. It should be go inwards to accelerate the healing of the planet. Go inwards to accelerate your own healing. Go inwards to accelerate the life that you're truly meant to live. And the union isn't the point, because, who's to say you'll ever come in union? And who's to say that's not the point? So, there's a woman, Divine Light. She talks about that. We're not here to focus on union. We're here to do high-end energy work. And union be damned. You're already in union. You are in union in the higher realms. And the 3D union, if you end up making that the focus, you're really undercutting the work you truly can do at a higher energetic level. So we need to view ourselves as these very high high-level energy workers who can pull on our connection as a source of inspiration, strength, and literally energy to empower ourselves to do the healing work we're meant to do. So that's what I wanted to say. If you've got any questions or comments, please let me know, and I will be back with another video soon. Namaste. Have a wonderful day.